So, Raul, thank you again for coming. Earlier in the agenda, we skipped over a part. You had an email exchange with some folks explaining the changes to the proposed participatory budget. So I gave a quick background to the group that you had a request to maybe preserve your flexibility in requesting funds. So if you want to start your Q&A with introducing Patricia and then move into the participatory budgeting and then any other updates you care to share, I think that would smooth us along. And then at 8, we'll adjourn, and anybody who has questions for Raul or Patricia are welcome to stay. The room's open till 8:30.
Thank you, Joan. And so for those that haven't had an opportunity to meet, I think this is the last staff member on my team that we're bringing into the CLC meeting. So Patricia Ceja has been on our team since January, and she's a recent grad of San Jose State. And we pulled her out of the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits. And she was on at a part-time role with us, and we were able to now get her on as a full-time role starting on Monday. If you go to Phil's downtown, you may recognize her. She's been there for a little bit, but her last day is Friday. So she'll be full-time. I thought you looked familiar. But she'll be full-time with us on Monday, which will be good. Patricia. And then I definitely wanted to start off with the participatory budgeting, and for anybody that follows. Did you want a question on that first? Or?
Well, no, I'm sorry. It's been pointed out to me that sorry. John Turner. Right, sorry.
So this whole budget and the budget year, and I know that you guys, or the time during the year when you guys are doing the budget, I know it's like really super busy and very stressful, and I know that council puts forward different priorities, for their districts. What were, I'm sorry, I haven't read anything, so what were your priorities that were put forward, and how did you arrive at those?
So I'll go backwards. So arriving at them is certainly just through all the communications with the district, right? With the neighborhood meetings, the needs of the community, the business community, and that's, obviously being out there, having your ears to the wall and really trying to find out what it is that are priorities in the community, and I think the priorities for not just the whole district but as well as the city. That's where I got my information from. And then initially I really benefited because Sam had invited me to be part of his Budget Brown Act. And so I was part of the conversation since back in February, being able to state, well, what things are we talking about putting in the budget? And so there's a number of things that are in the budget right now that I think were priorities for our city as a whole that benefited. Some specifics that benefited our district, District 3, in regards to the foot patrol, the downtown officer foot patrols. Yeah. That was a one-time funding kind of thing that could have gone away this year if we didn't put it back in, and that's something that was reintroduced. The fireworks, that was something that we had one-time funding for last year that got put back into the budget again for this year. There was obviously larger issues, larger scale, that were more citywide, and these had to do with obviously employing youth after school, right, in the summertime, opening the libraries, 5 days or 6 days a week. Those are all things that were in the budget that I thought were also very important to be in the budget. Now this essential services fund is really that fund where we get to now say, well, what do we think maybe wasn't in the budget that's a priority for us to put forward? One of the things that I asked for was for RLEI, so the Responsible Landlord Engagement Initiative. They were funded at $25,000 for the first time from the city last year, and they had seed funding from Citibank, a grant that they had gotten to really operate their program over the last couple of years. And I don't know who's familiar with RLEI. Yeah. So that grant funding, fortunately, they were able to get another set of grant funding from Citibank, but a big part of it was really tying into, well, would you be able to get more support from the city now that you've been a program for a couple years? The city sees the benefit of really what their program is, which is a benefit to us at the city here. It doesn't benefit RLEI as a program. They don't make money off of that. They don't go and charge residents for for putting in those complaints and working on them. And so that was one of the bigger asks, was to be able to fund their program at $150,000 for 1 year. They really were hoping to get around $1.8 million for 3 years. So $600,000 a year for 3 years to take their program from what it is and multiply it by 4.
Wow.
So then that way there would be that program in each police division. So that's what they were hoping for. The problem is, and the reason I wasn't willing to go that far with them, I love their program. I've worked with them since I was an officer. They're changing hands. So they're currently in neighborhood housing services, and they're going to be going over to Catholic Charities. It's Charities Housing, so it's a branch of Catholic Charities. We don't know how. It's just right. It's changing hands. So I didn't feel comfortable enough buying in for 3 years at that big of a level without us knowing that now Charities Housing is going to run it just as well as Neighborhood Housing Services did. So, but I didn't want to see it go away. And that grant funding that they were able to get from Citibank was, if we didn't buy in, and Citibank's going to probably pull out, and then it's gone. And I just think it's been such an asset to us that and District 3 has actually been disproportionately advantaged from the program, so I had an obligation to really be the one to fight for it. Other districts have seen, I think, a benefit, but we have just, I don't know if it's because our residents know how to use it better or what it might be, but we have seen that, and so I felt that was certainly a strong need that we should fight for. And
Jaime lives in District 3.
Yes, there you go.
Angulo lives over on 8.
Yeah, that could have something to do with it. So, but certainly something I think that was a benefit to fight for. In relation to arts and culture, the Veterans Parade is on its 97th year this year. And that is something that the city used to help fund, and they funded, both the city and the county funded that. We have one of the longest running, if not the longest, is what I've been told, Veterans Parade in the country.
Yeah.
And it used to be huge. It's obviously died down over the years, and as we know, the funding for arts and culture gets cut very quickly. And so they've really been on their own fundraising year after year and even putting in grants to the city, and they've gotten some smaller grants through either the mayor's office, or from our arts groups, and they've been struggling to try to make it every year, but they have, and I really wanted to see them make it to their 100th year, so which would be basically 4 more years. And it's actually not much that they need for the program. It's between 50,000 or so, a year to do that, and they're out there trying to fundraise and do that. But there's not really a huge, push of theirs. It's just the parade that they're doing, and certainly a number of other veteran services that they try to provide throughout the year. But the parade is not the priority. I think that the parade is the benefit really to the community and to highlight our support of veterans. So having that known, one of the asks that I put in was for funding to be able to fund it the way that we used to, in regards to, I think it was about $20,000 a year. So it's an $80,000 ask, but that's for 4 years. So that's to put them through over the finish line for their 100th year anniversary. Whatever happens after that, I mean, I hopefully we're still in good economic times. Maybe that's something we can continue to support as we used to in the past. We're certainly supporting the downtown fireworks, and I felt that, obviously I liked that as well, but I felt there's also some meaning in something that's very historical and something like this with the Veterans Parade. So that's one of the ones that is in there that I had asked for. The Office of Immigrant Affairs, this is something that Sam had proposed, and there's money in the budget for it at the tune of $200,000. And our Office of Immigrant Affairs is really going to be here to match what the county is doing with their Office of Immigrant Affairs, which actually they've had for quite a while under their Office of Human Relations. It's just now it's being pulled out of that office and being able to stand alone. And the idea of it here is to be a better resource for not only our immigrant community that's here now, but with the influx of what we know is going to come with this DAPA. So we have DACA, which came through, which was Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and now DAPA is coming through, and this was the President's second action, which is Deferred Action for parent of DACA children. Basically, I'm blanking on the DAPA term, but and we're going to see, as we have seen, a bigger influx of people going out to get their licenses, socials and trying to get work and and be legal in their as productive citizens, which they already are, but now they're trying to be legal within the system. And we want to be able to help them navigate that system, and we also want to make sure that the right nonprofit organizations are getting funding to do the work, because we know there's a lot of not only organizations but even more like law firms and private practices that take advantage of when something like this happens. They take advantage of that community and say, hey, I can help you, through this. So that's where really we went. We had a near unanimous vote. I think we were 10-1 on the Office of Immigrant Affairs when we passed it back in January, I believe. And then the mayor put it in his budget, $200,000. The county is putting in $1.8 million. And one of the things that the county had reached out to us about was, could you come in at around $500,000 to kind of leverage what we want to do, what you want to do. And so what I did was I asked to bump that up to the $500,000, but over a 2-year period. So as opposed to just $500,000 all one shot. So it's really an increase of $50,000 for this year's budget, but then it also ties in another $250,000 for the following year to extend this program out to at least that long, for a 2-year period. As we know, it takes quite a while for people to go through these processes. Sometimes up to a year for someone to initiate and be within the DACA program. For those of you that know Lucila Ortiz from my team, she's actually a DACA recipient. So she has, her status to be here and to work and to drive and to get her license, all of that made possible through the DACA program. And we have a number of people that are, within our community that are business owners, college grads, up here at work, you name it. That's our community, right? We're in this immigrant community. So it's something that we felt strongly that we should have been at a higher ask. I think there was also another, I think Councilmember Ashkalra also put in a very similar document, so there may be support for that, and that's coming through. We put in the one for participatory budgeting, which was $100,000. To my knowledge, and I wouldn't say I combed through them, I skimmed through all the other council members' budget documents because they were all due today at 5. I didn't comb through them yet. But to my knowledge, we're the only one that put in a budget document that actually adds money to the general fund. And I think it's to the tune of $268,000. And this is for parking violations for people that park in handicap zones or the side, the spot next to the handicap zone. I'm blanking what it's called. Buffer zone. Yeah. So I had looked at, and I had known this from being an officer and obviously working out in the community. I didn't know what the comparisons were though, and we were already in our budget this year. We were already going to up those fines, I think, by $10 from, and I might need to look at my document to remind myself, but. $210, $215 to $225, $20, like somewhere around there per violation. And San Francisco is upwards of like $800. Oakland is 340 something. Sacramento's 450 something. And the revenue generation that could come from this is based on the number of people that were cited last year. Is about $270,000 of revenue generation. So what I asked for was an increase instead of the $10 of $100. So we'll be upward. I think it's 315 is what our. So we're still not going to be where San Francisco is. We're not. We're going to be now a little bit. I think it's a little higher than Oakland. We're still lower than Sacramento. But now I just think we're more in the ballpark, and that's just revenue. That's. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if you're parking in a handicap zone and you're not, a placard holder, then. You deserve the fine. So and that's just free money, and so that's one of the things. And I think we're the only office that did that. So not only I think do I have an argument that we're asking for the $100,000 for participatory budgeting, but we've covered it by putting in some money into the general fund.
How much would that raise that fund from $250,000 to what if you bumped it up 100?
No, that is the raise. 200, and I think it's about 250. That's what it would increase it. Yeah.
Oh, increase it by.
It would increase it by that much. So what the budget document is putting in that much more into the general fund, if we can approve that. So, any other ones that you're?
I think you covered all of them.
Oh, and then the one that I had mentioned initially on, which is, so there's about $6-7 million worth of police items that are in there. The perimeter fence, the MDCs, the computers, updating the computers, protective equipment for officers, an update on that. There's the community service officers, several million there. So there's quite a bit of money going there, and where it's coming out of right now is a couple years back we created the police department reserve fund for staffing. So police department staffing and services reserve. And what that was is that was from savings that we've had from being so understaffed. And so we were budgeted for another 150 officers, and we don't have that. So we have a ton of overtime money that we put to the PD, but there's still savings. So there was about $13 million in that fund that should have been for basically paying for officers over the last however many years. And and council 2 years back said, we want to save that money for police department for making sure we can actually retain and then hire new officers. And so that fund would be depleted down to about $6 million from the 13, because you can also use it for anything police related, and that's what they're using it for. So what I suggested is instead of taking that $7 million out of there, take just 5 and $2 million, and identified which items. It didn't really matter, whatever. I just had to come up with about $2 million of those items. One of them I think was like the perimeter fence around the police department building, and take that $2 million and pull it from the essential services reserve as opposed to pull it from the police department staffing reserve. Because, and my point is that I think very soon here, I'm hoping we're going to come to an agreement with our police union.
Yeah.
The discussions have gone well. So I'm hoping at the end of the year here, when their contract is up, that we've already had we now have come to terms on a Tier 2 pension, that in January, we're going out saying San Jose's back in business. And I'm hoping that we have an influx of people that want to come and work here again, because we haven't been on the same page. And that's part of the deal that we're talking about with our police union is obviously when it comes time to rebuild, we need everybody on the same page that says, welcome back to San Jose, and I think we're going to need the money to do that, to be able to recruit and retain, and that we may see, and I'm hoping we do, we see a lot of officers come back, or at least apply. And so I wanted to keep that fund a little bit more intact, and so that was the purpose for that. But once again, that's really just a moving. That wasn't, so whether it happens or not, I'm not taking away any of the services that we were going to put there. And it's not introducing anything new, it's just on where that money's coming from.
That all sounds
Good
great.
idea.
I noticed that some people are packing up their stuff, so it is after 8. The council member has agreed to stay here till 8:30. We have that room, so anybody that'd like to stay and have some one-on-one questions or just general questions and updates, you're welcome. But if those of you that look like you're anxious to go, we are officially adjourned, but the room is still open.
Thank you.
I did recall another one. If anybody wants to take off, don't feel bad gathering your stuff and go. We did request for some funds for an update on the computers and for Wi-Fi in 3 of the community centers that are reuse. So our budget right now has money to update the computers and Wi-Fi, actually put Wi-Fi in the community centers that the city still manages. But there's a lot of community centers that we put out to reuse, and they're just, there's not much going on. There's a lot of services going on, but there's not much going on as far as the actual facility itself. So we picked the 3 areas that were in the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force that have been deemed as gang hotspots. So to try to have something for these youth to be able to do. So it's McKinley Bonita, the Washington Youth Center, and then Spartan Keys. So those 3, and it's about, I think it's about 45,000 or so. It's not a huge ask, but certainly in the realm of things, right? Like you can't just keep chunking away 40, 50 grand at things. So I don't know if that's going to fly either, but I think it's important, and it certainly ties into the areas that would need it.
McKinley Bonita, if University sort of manages that, and they have wireless, but it's with a specific code. Are you talking about like for everybody that they could just log in?
Yeah, it'd be like, so and that's what we're doing with our community centers now. So like Roosevelt, which we manage, hopefully by the beginning of next year, we'll have Wi-Fi that, I don't know if anybody's been there, it's a dead zone. So So
19.
yeah, so. And it is just within the centers though, so it's not like the neighborhood is going to benefit from that.
But the neighborhood has the meetings.
But the neighborhood has the meetings there, yeah.
And
So
the kids gather there on Thursdays and.
yeah, and it would be an update on the equipment too. So it'd be new computers as well. So
Really?
yeah, if all of it came together. So
I have been hearing rumors about possibly bringing you back to Christmas parade. Has that been addressed? And if so, has any money?
not to my knowledge, no, not to my knowledge. Yeah.
John Turner is from San Jose State. Did you have to get your question answered?
Well, I was wondering about, I told her, you got it, but I was wondering about, I had heard the 100,000 mentioned. Then tonight, beginning of the year, I heard 250, going back to 100, I was wondering how that works.
For the participatory budgeting?
Yeah.
So it was always 250. And that was since February. When the mayor put out his first budget message, he had said there would be 250 per council district that wanted to opt in. And when I went back to him and found out that that would also restrict me from doing any other budget ask, and it would restrict me from the increase in 3.7 million that we've seen in the essential services, I just didn't think that was fair. So I thought that if he could increase the 250, add the 370,000 on top of it, well, yeah, then we got some money to play with. So, but so the 100,000 was that's from me. That's not from the mayor. Didn't put the 250 is what it's been standard. I just put in a budget document that said, hey, look, could we do 100,000 for participatory budgeting? So,
With the possibility of going up to 250 with your recommendation.
No, it's
No?
a separate participatory budgeting.
yeah, no, totally separate. Yeah, totally. If there's we'll be lucky to get the 100. There's no. Yeah, it's not going to go up to 250. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, that's why nobody bid. No, not one council office bid on. I mean, it didn't make sense. So, yeah.
So none of them are participating?
Nobody is. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like, the city kind of shoot itself in the foot by putting those restrictions on you guys?
It wasn't the city. It was our mayor. Yeah. It was. I mean, the essential services. And the money that goes there, and certainly, I mean, the mayor could have put in his budget an extra, $6-7 million worth of asks that left the essential services at zero. So, I mean, we should be pleased that he didn't do that, and so there's certainly benefit. And then just one of the things that he said was, if you'd like to do participatory budgeting, there'll be $250,000, and like I said, I didn't think it was fair that we also could not participate in any of the other now 3.7 million, and so.
Yeah, it just sounds like they're taking the people's ability to participate away by putting those restrictions on and making it a really stupid thing to actually opt in on. So, what does that do to taxpayers who want to participate but now feel like they better not?
Well, I think I got him on the fence now because I put the document out that says, I mean, here's what about 100,000? So now there's got to be an answer that just says I mean, it could just be as simple as I'm sorry, that's not what we had intended for participatory budgeting, and then it's out the door. But I do agree that I think it's a good idea to do. It just it has to be a wise decision. Our district should not have been cut out of all the other decisions. So it just so.
Well, what does the acronym DACA stand for?
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals.
Say it again.
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals.
Oh, okay. Now I know what it is.
It's like part of the DREAM Act?
Yeah.
Part of the DREAM Act. Yeah. So it's essentially kids that came here without really a decision about it. They came at a young age, and
they know no other place.
They're not citizens because they weren't born here, but they've lived here since they were however big, and
I teach them.
yeah, and so so it's that's what the president's first action was. Now on top of that, what he did is he said, because what was happening is there were parents that were being separated from these kids and these families and stuff, and then so the parents are being deported, and then the kids aren't staying here. So what he said is that the second action was now for the parents of families as well as parents of legal citizens. So if somebody came in here undocumented but then had children and their kids are now able to to sponsor them, that those people would also have an ability to be here and remain here as opposed to be separated from
I
family.
see what living like under the wire, under the radar
Yeah.
does, because I teach at Sylvandale Middle School, which is right by Andrew Hill High School in south of San Jose. And I teach a high population of Hispanic students, and many other parents are illegal. And so they have a defeatist attitude in many ways at
Yeah.
the school. Why should I try?
Why
I'm
should I
not
try? Yeah.
going to get anywhere anyway. And so it's a tough job for a teacher to, instill in them that confidence that you can do it.
Yeah.
But now that we have the law backing us, I see a big change in their attitude.
And
Yeah,
attitudes.
I saw that as an officer. There would, when it came through, when DACA came through, there were so many people that were excited to show me their license when I pulled them over.
Yes, yes.
I mean, they're just like, they're like, oh, I'll take my first ticket, because I now have my license and I'm driving,
Would you cite it
There's a
from
lot
the
of
officer?
pride.
There was pride in something
A lot
to
of pride.
earn. Yeah, so yeah.
Participating in American society.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get your
Do
finger.
that.
Yeah. All right.
This is not official.